Hi, grade 5/6s. We're back with another chapter of We All Fall Down by Eric Walters. I have my nice cozy reading spot ready to go, and I hope that you're ready to listen. So we're on to chapter 11. Here we go. I didn't wait to say anything to my father. There was a door and no stairs, and what if the door was locked or jammed or blocked somehow? Slowly, I walked over and I put my hand against it. Cool. Cold. Whatever was behind the door wasn't on fire. I knew that, but I had to check. I pushed against the bar. The door opened effortlessly. Stretching before me was a hallway. It had a concrete floor, and it was well lit. At the end was a gray metal door, just like the one that I had just opened. Was it locked? "Stay right here," I ordered my father, "and hold that door open." I raced down the hall. Sometimes doors open from one direction, but not the other. I didn't want to somehow get trapped between the two. I jumped into the next door, and I practically had it merge into it. As my weight and my force propelled me into the unmoving metal, it didn't budge. It was locked. This was it. We were trapped, and I looked down. It was a pull door and not a push. I grabbed the handle, depressed the latch, and the door opened. I felt like an idiot with a sore shoulder, but an idiot who could still move forward, who was still alive. "It's okay, you can come," I yelled back at my father, who was holding the door open. My father's head was slightly bowed. He looked as though he was laboring more and more than he had on the way down the stairs. It must have been like he'd said, on the steps. Going down, he'd had gravity working with him. Ting ducked her head slightly to get through the door frame. We were standing in a large carpeted corridor, again well lit and completely deserted. It was as if we were the only people in the entire whole building, but I knew that that wasn't true. The people at this level must have all evacuated. There had to be a mass of bodies below. The stairwells jammed with crush of people trying to get out. In some ways, it would have been good to run into somebody, but I knew it was really better this way. As long as the line kept moving in front of us, we were clear to keep moving forward, or more to the point, down and out. "Look! Elevators!" I exclaimed. I stopped directly in front of the middle of a bank of 4. "I wish we could take these down." "You wish?" my father said, gesturing over his shoulder at Ting. The scene was so funny that I couldn't help myself, and I started to laugh. It was bizarre, unreal to be standing there laughing, but at the same time, it felt good. I stopped myself when I looked down, and I realized that the carpeting was all discolored in front of 2 elevators, and there was a strange smell, a burning smell. And there was something on the floor directly in front of me, a large piece of metal. It looked like it was the door of one of the elevators. I took a few steps forward. The entire door of one of the elevators was completely blown off, leaving a big, gaping black hole in its place. "It must have shot down the elevator shafts," my dad said. "What did?" "A fireball. That's the only thing that could blow off a metal door. And you can see where it burned the carpet and shot across the lobby. Look at the wall. Right across from the elevators, the wall was scorched and the paint was burnt away." My father swung Ting around, gently placing her on her one good foot and helped her to settle to the floor. "It came through the elevator shaft," my dad said. "One of the doors was open a few inches, and the shiny metal was brown, scorched around the open edges. The jet fuel would have just gone to the lowest point down the shaft, and when it ignited, it would have exploded down through those same spots. Anybody in the elevators, anybody standing by an open door would have been..." He stopped. My mind filled in the rest of the words. They would have been burned to death, incinerated. I edged away from the opening between the 2 doors. It was open only a few inches, obviously not enough for me to get through, to fall through, but enough to get a deadly stream of fire spew through. Just as bad, it was also open enough to allow my imagination to fit through. I thought of both the death drop down to the black shaft and more vividly the searing flames that fueled the jet fuel, flashing out of the shaft and incinerating anything and anybody in its path. I stepped past quickly. The left that left only the shaft that was completely open. I moved as far away as possible, my shoulder pressed against the far wall. The door was in 3 pieces, lying on the floor. The wall was scorched from the fire and dented from the force of from the door smashing against it. I moved past, not even looking at the hole. My legs felt wobbly. Here, I'd been thinking that we were safe, more than a dozen floors removed from the fire, but we weren't. Not here and not now. Carefully, my father, carrying Ting, moved past the elevator shafts. He stopped just beyond them. Gently, he lowered her from his back onto the ground. There are more stairs, right? I asked. This is a transfer floor, my dad said. Well, what does that mean? The stairs in this building don't continue all the way straight down. They stop at certain floors, take a jog over, and then continue. It's a fire precaution that's built in by the architects so that smoke can't simply travel all the way up a shaft if it were a chimney. I guess it's good that they did something safe, I said, surprised that I was suddenly feeling so angry. They did everything that they were supposed to do. Nobody could have ever imagined that this would be happening. It's beyond belief, beyond comprehension. Listen, we better get moving again. My father offered Ting a hand, helping her to get to her feet. She held her injured leg up so just the very tip of her toe was on the ground. I knew that leg must have hurt, but she wasn't complaining. Let me take her, I said. Are you sure? I'm sure I want to, and I'm sure that I can. I squatted down in front of her, and my father helped her climb onto my back. She wrapped her arms around my neck, and I twisted my arms back to support her, locking my fingers together. She was light. The stairs are this way, my dad said as he led us down another corridor to an exit sign. He opened the door, holding it open for me, and then rushed ahead so that he was below us on the stairs. I wasn't planning on falling, but it was good to have him there just in case I did. I concentrated on the steps. I couldn't afford to misstep or stumble. Ting didn't need another knock in the head. Besides, what would happen if I got hurt? It wasn't like my father could carry both of us. Actually, it would have been twice as hard to carry me as it was to carry Ting because I probably outweigh her by at least 80 pounds. Are you okay? My dad asked. Doing okay, I said, trying to control my breath so it wouldn't sound like I was straining. This is just like football practice. My dad laughed. I remember that drill from when I played, carrying a teammate across the field. We do it the length of the field, I said, and we do it as a race. One guy carries the other one all the way, and then they switch the horse for the rider and come back the other way. Last pair have to do 40 push-ups. Next to last, 35. The next team, 25, and so on. Only the winners are off the hook. Well, that's incentive to move fast. There are all sorts of incentives to move fast, I said, stating the obvious. We kept making landings, turning, making floors, turning, heading down. I freed up one hand, sometimes to hold on to the railing. It had only been 4 floors, but I was starting to feel it in my lungs and in my legs. I wanted to stop, but I just didn't. My father had carried her 9 floors without stopping. I had to do at least 9. No, I had to do at least 10 floors before I stopped. My father pulled out his cell phone. I'd forgotten about reaching my mom. He punched in the numbers and held it up to his ear. Is it ringing? I asked. Nothing. Just that fast, sort of busy sound that you get when you can't get a signal through, he said. Either the walls of the stairwell are blocking it, or there are just so many people trying to phone out that the network is overwhelmed. She must know that the plane hit the building below the floor. Your mother must be just frantic. I'd been so worried about what was happening with us that I hadn't really even thought about what my mother was going through. She got all panicky when I was 20 minutes late for curfew or my father wasn't on the right train. She always worried so much when my father had to fly away on business. She said that she just didn't trust planes. That was stupid. It was actually safer, scientifically, to travel on a plane than it is by car. Most days, not today. Not those 2 planes. Not the planes that hit these buildings. What would it have been like for those passengers? Would they have even known what was happening? Would they have had any idea that they were about to die? At least it would have been quick. It would have been instant, not like the people who were trapped by fire. I could only hope that they'd all be saved, just scared and worried until rescue came. It was better to be worried and alive than oblivious and dead, I guess. I just pray that your mother isn't alone. I hope her sister is there and that she has someone, my dad said. Keep on trying to call her, I said. I was finding it tough to find the breath to talk and walk at the same time. I think that the stairwells are cell phone dead areas. Maybe we should stop and go on to one of the... I don't think we should stop, I said. Don't worry, we're safe now. My dad sounded supremely confident, almost smug. That tone that he uses normally just irritates me, mostly because usually he was right. This time, I just hoped that he was, though. I thought that we were safe until I saw how the fire traveled down the elevator shaft, I said. I'm sure we're safe now. We're not stopping, I snapped. We're not? My father asked. No, we're going to keep going. That wasn't a suggestion that I was making or something that we could debate on and decide on. I was going to keep moving whether he liked it or not, whether he agreed or not. I expected my father to say something, to argue. He was used to being the one to give the orders, but I guess he wasn't in the mood for a fight. Your mother's always worried when there's nothing to worry about. I guess now she has reason, my father said. But you said that you think we're safe here, I said, controlling my breath so I wasn't panting. Yes, but she doesn't know that we're here. As far as she's concerned, we're still up there, trapped, or worse. He was right. She would have to be having a complete meltdown by now. I keep trying to remember what the last thing I said to your mother was this morning, before I left. I don't understand, I grunted. I just can't remember what I said. I can't remember if I told her I loved her or something nice. I don't remember if I was so busy reading the paper that I didn't even pay attention to her over breakfast. I don't know what you're talking about over breakfast, but I do know that you told her you loved her. I did? You remember me saying that? He asked. He sounded relieved. I don't remember you saying it. I just know that you always say it. He looked back over his shoulder and he smiled. You're right. I do. He always said it to me too. I usually just grunted or mumbled goodbye, and I couldn't remember what I'd said to Mum. It probably wasn't even a word. I'd been half asleep and not in a great mood to begin with because I didn't want to be awake, never mind heading out the door. When I saw her tonight, I'd say something for sure. I just want to get out of the building. We can call Mum when we get out, I said. I took a deep breath. If we keep moving at this pace, we can be out in 20, maybe 30 minutes. You're moving pretty fast, my dad said. Faster than I was going. A lot faster, I said. Sounds like a challenge, he responded. Not a challenge, just a fact. I made the turn to floor 54. That was 12 floors, 3 more than my dad had managed. I was feeling it even more in my legs and my lungs. It was as if Ting had gotten heavier with each floor. I didn't know how many floors I could do. My foot slipped and I stumbled forward, hitting the wall. I grabbed the railing with my free hand and my father reached up and grabbed me with both hands, stopping me before I could tumble down the stairs. Thanks, I gasped. I think it's time to trade. I'm feeling rested, my dad said. He helped Ting get off my back. You lead and I'll carry. As long as we're moving, I don't care who's doing what. I could take over again in 10 or maybe even 11 floors. It was a challenge. All right, guys. So that's the end of the chapter, and I will see you tomorrow with another chapter.